Howdy there, bass cowboys. Josh Fossgreen here with some bass in your face. Today we're going to learn how to play the dominant 7th chord in our ongoing series of 7th chords for the bass. This is our third lesson in the series, and we've learned minor 7 chords, major 7 chords so far. Today we're going to learn dominant 7, and then next week we're going to put it all together with autumn leaves. But anyway, onwards and upwards. So today the reason I'm wearing a western shirt and speaking in a silly accent is that we are going to... Well, it's silly because it's not my real voice. It's not like totally silly for somebody to just sound like that, but you get the idea. So we're going to learn how to play dominant 7 chords over 12-bar blues progression. So not only are you going to get what you came here for, which is the dominant 7th chord, but you're going to learn a 12-bar blues, which everybody who wants to play music should know how to do because it's a very vital, critical part of music. It's 12-bar blues progression. Okay, so... first of all, let's learn our chord voicings, shall we? We're going to do this in the key of C because we're going to play C blues. And our first chord is C, B flat, and E. The fret numbers are 8 on the E string, 8 on the D string, and 9 on the G string. And fingering wise, I'm going to go with index finger on the C, middle finger on the B flat, and pinky finger on the E up top. First finger, second finger, fourth finger. And the reason we're going to do that is that when we switch voicings, we're going to be able to keep a couple of fingers in place when we move from chord to chord, which makes it easier to do those transitions. Okay, so that's your basic dominant 7th chord voicing right there. If you do some poppy, slappy stuff on it, it sounds like you're really cool and you know what you're doing. Okay, so practice moving that around a little bit, get yourself comfortable, and then when you're ready, you can pause this video to do that. You don't have to I don't have to just sit here and wait for you. It's a really cool thing about, technology, right, guys? Okay, so A string root, just like in the last 2 videos, we're going to learn E string root and an A string root for these chords, so you have 2 different shapes to mess with, and it makes it easier to get through progressions without sliding all over the neck. So now we're going to learn the A string root shape for the C chord, which I've bumped up an octave just for kicks. And the fingering we are going to use is 3rd finger on C on the 15th fret of the A string, 2nd finger on E on the 14th fret of the D string, and pinky finger on the 15th fret of the G string. C, E, B flat. 3rd finger, 2nd finger, 4th finger. So that's your A string voicing. Get used to that. Practice moving around. Another thing you can do, I don't really like to do this, but I've used this to teach kids how to play chords before. Maybe it'll be useful for you too, especially if you are a kid, because you're still allowed to watch YouTube, right? Take that, Mom and Dad! I can still watch YouTube if I want. You can go to here, make the shape with your fingers, then you gotta slap your knee. So you unmake the shape with your hand, then you go back, make the shape, slap your knee, make the shape, slap your knee. Then do some beatboxing, you'll be all set. But anyway, that makes you, forces you to unmake the shape with your hand rather than just going like this. You can still kind of keep your fingers configured. So that gives you practice just getting into position for these chords. So you can do it if you want to. It's not obligatory. You can just do it without slapping your knee, although that really goes with my country bumpkin kind of voice thing that I was doing. So now we've got our E string shape and our A string shape for the dominant 7th chord. We're ready to go through the 12-bar blues progression. The 12-bar blues is one of the cornerstones of modern chord progressions, and it's very common and you should know it. And what it is just like last week we were talking about triangular progressions because I had you doing that 6-bar progression, which was like 3 groups of 2 with the A major deal. The 12-bar blues is actually a triangular progression as well. It's 3 groups of 4 bars, and lyrically speaking, it translates to a sort of AAB form, like, oh, got my woman, she never make me sandwiches no more. Then you go to the 4 chord, oh, my woman, she never make me sandwiches no more. Then you go to the turnaround, but my woman, I still like her, I suppose. So you say a phrase, you sort of repeat the phrase, and then you conclude the phrase. AAB is the classic lyrical form for the blues. So, hence the 12-bar form. So you can see the chord progression there. We've got 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord for 2 bars, 4 chord for 2 bars, 1 chord for 2 bars, 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord is the last 4 there. Okay, so that's just your very basic 12-bar blues. In jazz, you would alter that turnaround to have a 2 chord, instead of just a 5/4. But that's just the basic kind of country / rock / straight up blues version of the 12-bar blues we're going to go with. And the rhythm is just very repetitive, just root, higher notes. So again, we're kind of separating the root from the higher notes of the chord, which is a fun thing to do on bass because you can sort of accompany yourself. But of course you want to practice doing these, practice plucking them all at once too. But the plucking pattern I've got here, you can either go first finger on the low notes and then second and third finger on the high notes with your right hand. Or you can go thumb and 1, 2. Thumb, fingers, thumb, fingers, thumb, fingers, thumb, fingers. Whatever you like. So let's just rock through this with this very excellent drum beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Congratulations, you've now been initiated into the Order of the Blues. You're now allowed to play the harmonica and take 10-minute solos at blues jams. I'm always ripping on harmonica players in these videos. I wonder if there are any watching. I'm sorry. Unless you are that guy who does 20-minute solos at blues jams, in which case I'm not sorry. So fingering wise, the reason I have you doing 1, 2, 4 on the E string roots and then 2, 3, 2, 4 is that you can keep 2 and 4 on the D and G strings. You just go first finger on the root here, then you got 2 and 4. I'll hide my third finger so you can see. And then to go to the F chord, which is the 4 chord, just slide those guys down and then place your third finger on F, which is the root of the 4 chord. So if I take the roots out, you're just going like this, and then the G chord up there. So that's all those fingers have to do. They don't actually have to change configuration. So hopefully that makes sense fingering wise. And again, the reason we're switching from our E string voicing to our A string voicing is for smooth voice lading, because like we were just noticing, let's talk about this actually. With the C chord, we've got root, 7th, 3rd. Then when we go to the F chord, we take those, the 7th and 3rd from the C chord, they both need to move down a half step to fit into the F chord. So what we just did is the 7th of the C chord turned into the 3rd. You can't see if I would do that. The 7th of the C chord turned into the 3rd of the F chord by moving down a half step, and the 3rd of the C chord turned into the 7th of the F chord by moving down a half step. So rather than moving everything up a 4th, which is what the root movement is, we're just moving the guide tones, which is the 3rd and 7th, down a half step, and they're flipping. So whenever you have 4th-wise progressions like this, with dominant 7 chords, the guide tones are always going to flip 3 to 7, 3 to 7, and we're going to notice that in Autumn Leads next week too, so I figured I should mention it now. Okay, so I think that's enough explanation, and let's just try this again. This time we're going to start on the A string root for the C chord, and then go to the E string roots for the F and G chords, which are the 4 and 5. Okay, here we go with our excellent drum beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So just real quick about the note duration, you'll notice there sometimes I played it really short, sometimes I played it long. Note duration is something you can play with a lot as a bass player, and in this case in more of an accompaniment role than like a straight up bass player role. But still, either way, whether you're doing accompaniment or playing straight up bass, note duration is something that you want to play with a lot, because I think that a lot of times bass players think, oh, I want to do something interesting coming up, so I'm going to add a bunch more notes. And I'm not against adding notes, because if you've watched enough of my videos, you know that I like to do technical stuff. But it's not always the right thing to do, and I think one of the reasons that people still let me play gigs with them, and I haven't been fired from everything over the last number of years, is that there are other things I know how to play with, like articulation and note duration and rhythmic variations and stuff, rather than just adding some pentatonic fill at the end of every 4-bar phrase. Not that that's always bad, but it's not always good either. So anyway, note duration is something you can use to kind of build and release tension as you see fit. You know, depending on the context, it'll sort of have different effects. But that's something you can play with here without even changing the rhythm. You know, I've just got this very repetitive rhythm, but you can still make it kind of sculpt the accompaniment, make it more interesting by like gradually making the notes longer and then make them really short, or you know, however you see fit. Depends on if you're supporting a soloist and what they're doing and that kind of stuff. So that's note duration. And then rhythm-wise, you know, if you were really playing a blues and you wanted to do this accompaniment thing, you probably wouldn't want to play the same rhythmic figure over and over and over and over. So once you're comfortable with this, just try messing with some other rhythmic figures. Maybe we'll just doodle around here. 3, 4. Add some space in there too. Don't just play all 16 notes. You can anticipate the chords a little bit on the end of 4. So just play around with the rhythm, you know. You might come up with some rhythms that don't really sound bluesy at first, and you know, that's all useful data. It's okay to make mistakes when you're experimenting. In fact, you should make mistakes when you're experimenting, otherwise you're not experimenting, you're just playing stuff you already know how to play. Isn't that interesting and mind freaky? Prepare your mind for a mind explosion! Anybody get that reference? Let's close up shop here. So now you know how to play dominant 7th chords, you also know how to play minor 7th chords from previous weeks and major 7th chords. So that's enough that we're going to put it all together into a jazz standard next week and learn how to play through your average jazz progression using these 7th chord voicings. Isn't that exciting? So stay tuned, be sure to subscribe, and please share these videos with your friends who play bass. Don't share them with people who hate the bass, because they won't like it. Or people who are interested in like bass, fishing, they won't be interested in this video either. But really anyone else, you know, feel free. And you can make a donation through my website or a recurring patron deal through Patreon if you're into that. And you can also buy my book, Beastly Scales and Arpeggios. I just put it out, so I feel like telling you about it. It's cool. So you can check all that stuff out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next week.